Okay, everyone, Assalamu alaikum. Let's begin. So today we are going to do some more practice questions on arithmetic and geometric progressions. We are done with all the concepts, of course, and we did some practice questions in the last session as well. We will do some more today. Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Okay, so let me know the problems that you have from the worksheet. We will start with them right away. So we will want to do as many questions as we can and hopefully wrap this topic up today as well. So let me know what questions you have from the worksheet. Abdul Rahman, is that 31 and 7? Are these two separate questions?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so let's start with these questions 31 and 7. Okay, 7 looks kind of straightforward. Okay, let's start with them. So rest of you as well, let me know if there are any particular problems so we could have a look at them. I'm going to start with this one right now. Question number 7, first of all. Let's start with this. This looks like a relatively simpler one. Okay, so let's start with this question. It says the second term of a GP is 3 and the sum to infinity is 12. Find the first term of the progression. So we're talking about a geometric progression, and we know that this GP has a second term of 3. Now, we don't know what the first term is. We can write it like this. We can say the first term is A, and then the second term is 3, and then it keeps going on like this. Okay, so first term is A, second term is 3, and then we do not know what the rest of the terms are. And we are given that the sum to infinity is equal to 12. I think we did a very similar question to this in our last session as well, I think. But anyway, what's the sum to infinity? What's the formula for sum to infinity? It's A over 1 minus R, that equals 12. Okay. We have one equation here. A over 1 minus R equals 12. If these are the first two terms of the GP, A and 3, we could say R should equal 3 over A, right? How do you calculate ratio? If this is term 1, this is term 2, you have two consecutive terms, you can divide them to get the ratio, right? This is one way of doing this. Or you could say the second term is given by AR and the second term is 3, so you have 3 equals AR. That gives you the same equation as this. So you could think of it either way, doesn't matter. You've got these two equations, okay? Now what you want to do is you want to find the value of A, the first term. What you can do for that is you can just eliminate R because you want to find A, right? So you don't need to find the value of R here. You can put R equals 3 over A in the second equation. Now, before we do that, let's simplify the second equation a bit. It's going to become 12 minus 12R on the right side. A equals 12 minus 12R. Now, put this thing in the other equation. What does that give us? A equals 12 minus 12 into 3 over A. Multiply the whole equation by A to get rid of this denominator. And that gives us A squared equals 12A minus 36. And that's a quadratic equation that you can solve. A squared minus 12A plus 36 equals 0. How do you solve this quadratic equation now? Can we factorize? We can. It becomes A squared minus 6A minus 6A plus 36 equals 0. And that gives us two factors, A minus 6 into A minus 6 equals 0. The value of A turns out to be 6. And they asked us for the first term. That means there had to be only one result. So we're getting A equals 7. A equals 6. That's the answer that we have. Okay. A turns out to be equal to 6. Okay. Now let's move on to the next one. It says an AP has the first term and the second terms. No, an AP has the same first and second terms as the GP. Okay. Now we have an arithmetic progression. This has the same first and second terms as that GP. Now we have found the first term. The first term is 6. What about the second term? The second term is 3. And so on. This is an AP now. What we need to do is we need to find the sum of the first 20 terms of the AP. How do you find sum of a certain number of terms of an AP? This is the formula that you got for that. Half n into 2a plus n minus 1 times d. Just input values in this. You know that the first term is 6 and the difference is 3 minus 6. Subtract the first term from the second term and the difference turns out to be 3 minus 6. Sum of the first 20 terms, that's what you're looking for, S20. That will be half into n, which is half into 20 into 2 times 6 plus n minus 1. That means 20 minus 1, that's 19, into the difference, which is minus 3. And that's going to give you the result because the difference is minus 3. Okay, just calculate this and you will get your answer. 10 into 12 minus 3 into 19. I'm getting minus 450. Can somebody confirm that? Minus 450. Is that okay? Is that correct? Yes.
Yes, sir. Minus 450.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to the next one now. That was part 2. Question number 7. Let me know if you have other questions in the chat box as well, please. If you have any others from the worksheet, do let me know about that. Especially questions involving some kind of real world scenario on the word problems, because we haven't done any of those until now. Abdullah, I'll have a look at what you have asked as well. Abdul Rahman, you're saying it was not 7, it was 17 instead? We have done 17 earlier, haven't we? Yeah, we have done 17 earlier. We did that in the last session. So not 31, is that it?
Yes, sir, 31.
Okay, let's have a look at this. Question number 31. Please do let me know if there are any other problems as well quickly, so we can do them as well. Question number 31. Okay, so that's the next one that we have. It says the first and last terms of an AP are 12 and 48. Respectively, the sum of the first 4 terms is 57. Find the number of terms in the progression. Okay, now what are we given? First term is 12. So we're talking about an AP. The first term is 12. And then it keeps going on like this until we have the last term of this AP, which is 48. Okay, that's what we're given. We need to find the number of terms in this progression. So what we can say is this is T1, then the next one would be T2, and then T3, and then T4. And then at some point, we have this last term, let's call that Tn. We need to find the value of n, right? Which position does the last term come at? Now, what information do we have? We know that the value of A is 12, and we know that 48 is the last term. We can say that's the nth term. And we need to find the value of n. And we're given the sum of the first 4 terms is 57. So that means S4 equals 57. This is the information that we're given. Now, this is an AP. What we can do is we can apply the term formula and put that equal to 48. Apply the sum formula, put that equal to 57. Remember the formulas that we've got. What is Tn? In an AP, Tn is given by a plus n minus 1 into difference that equals 48. Now we know the value of a. In place of a, we can put 12. So we have 12 plus n minus 1 into d equals 48. That's one equation that we've got. Similarly, we know the sum formula as well. Sn is given by half n. In this case, n is 4. Into 2 times a, that's 2 times 12, plus n minus 1, that means 4 minus 1. 3 times the difference. This is supposed to be equal to 57. All right. Let me just check this again. Half into 4 into 2 times a plus n minus 1 into difference. That becomes this. Okay, so now what we can do is we can find the value of d from this, because we only have one unknown here. This is 2. Let's simplify this. 2 into 24 plus 60, that equals 57. 48 plus 12d equals 57. And the value of d will turn out to be 9 over 12, which is 0.
Sir, how did you write 6d?
This 2 into 3d.
And then you multiplied 2 by 6.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry about that. You're right. Thank you for pointing that out. I multiplied that by 2 twice. Sorry, 24 plus 3d. What does that give you? That gives you 48 plus 60 equals 57. And then d equals 9 over 6, which is 1.5. We've got the value of the difference. Put that back here. Thank you for pointing that out, by the way. Otherwise, we would have spent some time figuring out what the error was. 12 plus n minus 1 into 1.5, that equals 48. 12 plus 1.5n minus 1.5, that equals 48. And that will give you something here. 48 plus 1.5 minus 12 divided by 1.5. What do we get from this?
25.
And turns out to be 25. All right, that's what we were looking for. That's the number of terms in the progression. There are 25 terms in this progression. That was the first part. Now it says the third term of a GP is 4 times the first term. The sum of the first 6 terms is k times the first term. Find the possible values of k. Now let's first translate this written statement in terms of its mathematical form. Let's see what the mathematical form of writing this thing would be. Third term is 4 times the first term. We can say T3 is 4 times T1. And what's T1? T1 is basically represented by A. So we could say T3 equals 4 times A. All right. That's one piece of information that we're given. Then it says the sum of the first 6 terms is k times the first term. Sum of the first 6 terms, that means S6. That's k times the first term. That means that's k times A. That's another equation that we get. Find the possible values of k. Again, just apply formulas and solve these equations simultaneously. T3, what's that? A plus n minus 1 into d. A plus n minus 1, that means 3 minus 1, that's 2 times d equals 4 times a. You get one equation from this, 2d equals 3 times a. And you've got the second equation. You remember we're talking about AP, so we're going to use AP formulas. No, I'm sorry, we're not talking about AP. So we have to be very careful. So I would recommend writing down which progression we are talking about clearly. Otherwise, we can make errors like this. It's a GP. If it's a GP, we need to do something else here. What's the term formula for a GP? Term formula for a GP is AR raised to power n minus 1. That means A into R raised to power n minus 1. That means 3 minus 1. That's square. AR squared equals 4A. That's the first equation that we're getting. A and A get cancelled because the value of A cannot be 0. We can cancel it out. If any term of a GP is 0, that means all the terms are going to become 0 because of that, right? Because you keep multiplying by the 0 multiplied by anything is 0. So the first term cannot be 0. So 8, because of that, we can cancel out by dividing by 8. And we're left with r square equals 4. And we're getting 2 possible values of r. Yeah, so that's okay. R equals plus minus 2. Okay, there are 2 possible values of r that we've got from this. Now it says the sum of the first 6 terms is k times a. It's a GP. What's the sum formula for a GP? A into 1 minus r raised to power n divided by 1 minus r. Now, n is 6, so we can replace n with 6. It's 1 minus r raised to power 6 divided by 1 minus r. That equals k times a. Now, there are 2 possible values of r that we've got. We can input both of them one by one. Here as well, we've got a on both sides. It's multiplying with the whole thing. We can divide a on the other side. It's going to get cancelled. And we're just left with k equals this thing. And now all you have to do is put r equal to 2 in this once, and then you put r equal to minus 2 in this once. And that gives you 1 minus 2 raised to the power 6 divided by 1 minus 2, that equals k, or 1 minus 2 raised to the power 6. Make sure to write minus 2 in bracket inside like this, divided by 1 minus 2, that equals k. These are going to be the 2 possible values of k. 1 minus 2 raised to the power 6, that is minus 63. Minus 63 over minus 1, that's going to be 63. That's one possible value of k. And then we've got the same thing in the numerator there, minus 63 divided by 3, and that's going to be minus 21. So k equals plus 63 or minus 21. These are the 2 possible values of k that we get from this. Make sense? Any problem with this? No?
Sir, do we have to take one specific k, or can we just write both answers?
Both, because the question says, let's look at the question statement. It says find the possible values of k. That means there are going to be multiple answers. So question statement always gives you a hint about this. Okay?
Okay, thank you, sir.
Any other questions?
Sir, question number
Yes.
4.
Okay, let's try this. Question number 4 from the worksheet.
Sir, in question number 4, I am getting my answers in decimal, whereas in the marking scheme, the answers are rounded off.
But is the answer still correct? As in,
No, they are a bit close, but due to decimals, that is not matching.
That's okay. So generally, if the answer is not exact, the marking scheme would round it off to 3 significant figures. It's okay. You can leave your answer as it is. So what are you getting? Can you tell me the exact numbers?
Sir, I am getting that. 3 1 double triple 4 7
Okay. Just give me a minute. Worksheet P1 APGP worksheet. No, sorry, marking scheme. Question number 4. Okay, so what are you getting for the first part?
Sir,
36963.33. Yeah, so what they've done is they've just rounded off to 3 significant figures. So your answer is correct. You can leave it like this. You do not have to round it off. Just leave it as it is. Okay, and that's okay.
Okay, sir.
What about the next parts? Are they correct?
Yeah, that's the same, like 3144473.1634.
Yeah. So they're just rounding the answers to 3 significant figures. You don't have to do it. That's for the examiner, that if you have any answer, if the candidate writes any answer that rounds off to this thing, to 3 significant figures, they will mark that as correct. So you can leave your answer as it is. You don't have to round it off. Okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. Any other questions? Any other questions from the worksheet? No. Okay, let me just show you one more question because that is something that does come up again and again. Yeah, so question number 11. Let's have a look at this question 11, and then we do the one that Abdullah is asking about from a recent paper. Again, we haven't anyone that involves any scenarios, although yeah, so if we have time at the end, we'll do one more question at the end that involves some kind of a word problem as well. For now, let's do this one. Question number 11 from the worksheet. Have you guys attempted this question number 11?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's have a look at this question because questions like these, the question like what you have in the first part here, they do get repeated sometimes, right? Very similar questions you'll see in other papers as well. Let's quickly have a look at this. It says the first term of an AP is 8 and the common difference is D, where D is not equal to 0. So the difference is not equal to 0. The first term, the fifth term, and the eighth term of this AP. So first of all, we know the first term. The common difference is D. The first term, the fifth term, and the eighth term of the AP are the first term, the second term, and the third term, respectively, of a GP whose common ratio is R. So now you see, the first term of the AP is the same as the first term of the GP. The fifth term of the AP is the same as the second term of the GP. And the eighth term of the AP is the same as the third term of the GP. This is what we are given. We do not know the difference of the AP. We do not know the ratio of the GP. We just consider them DNR. But we know that the first term of the AP is 8. Write down two equations connecting DNR and hence show that R equals 3/4 and find the value of D. Now, how do we do this? What you're going to do is we're just going to write down the terms that we're given. So first of all, we have an AP. So for the AP, we know the first term. So they're talking about the first term, they're talking about the fifth term, and they're talking about the eighth term. What's the term formula for an AP? It's A plus n minus 1 times the difference. Now, if the first term is 8, that's what they're saying. The first term is 8. What are going to be the fifth and eighth terms? We do not know the difference, but can we write those terms in terms of D? Fifth term, let's use this formula. A is 8, so we can say 8 plus n minus 1, that means 5 minus 1, that's 4. 4 into D. Fifth term would be 8 plus 4 times D. And similarly, what about the eighth term? That will be A plus n minus 1 into D. That's 8. A plus 8 minus 1 into D. That becomes A plus 7D. That's the eighth term. These are the terms that we have for an AP. And now they're saying these are the same as the first term, the second term, and the third term of a GP. Now we know that the GP has the first term 8 as well now, right? Because if the first terms are the same, if the first term of the AP is 8, the first term of the GP is also supposed to be 8. So the first term here is also going to be 8. Now, can we write down the second term of the GP and the third term of the GP? Using the first term A, what can we do? What's the term formula for a GP? It's AR raised to power n minus 1. Right? Just input values in this. A is 8, right? So remember, T1 is basically A. A is 8. What about the second term? A into R raised to power n minus 1. That means 8R raised to power 2 minus 1, which is just 8R. What about T3? 8r raised to power 3 minus 1, which is 8r squared. These are the first three terms of the GP. They are saying the fifth term of the AP and the second term of the GP, they are supposed to be the same. The eighth term of the AP and the third term of the GP, they are supposed to be the same. And the first term is supposed to be the same. Now, the first term do not give us anything interesting. Basically, 8 equals 8. That's okay. But then we know the fifth term is supposed to be the same as the second term of the GP. And similarly, a plus 7d is supposed to be equal to 8r squared. We get two equations from that. We have 8 plus 4 times d equals 8r, equating these two. And we have a plus 7d, sorry, a, the value of a, we know that actually, we can write that here. The value of a was 8. So it becomes 8 plus 7d equal to 8r squared. We get two equations in terms of a and r. They asked us to find the value of d and also the value of r. They need us to show that r equals 3/4. So now we can just solve these two equations simultaneously. The first equation can be simplified a little. We can divide the whole equation by 4. That leaves us with 2 plus d equals 2r. Now we can make d the subject. D equals 2r minus 2. Put that in the other equation. That gives us 8 plus 7 into 2r minus 2. That equals 8r squared. 8 plus 14r minus 14 equals 8r squared. Take everything to one side. 8r squared minus 14r plus 6 equals 0. Divide the whole thing by 2. That gives you 4r squared minus 7r plus 3 equals 0. Can we factorize this? We can. It becomes 4r squared minus 4r minus 3r plus 3 equals 0. And that gives us two factors, 4r minus 3 and r minus 1. R equals 3/4 or r equals 1. These are the two values of r that we're getting. Now, they wanted us to show that r equals 3/4. We are getting two values of r. We are getting r equals 1 as well. Now, how do we know that r equals 1 is not possible? What does r equals 1 mean? R equal 1 means in the GP, you are getting the next term by multiplying by 1, right? If the ratio is 1, that means you're just multiplying by 1. That means if the first term is 8, the second term is also going to be 8. The third is also going to be 8. The fourth is also going to be 8. That means it's the same number repeating. And since the terms of AP and GP are the same, that means in GP as well, all of these terms are 8. Generally, that's not going to happen, that you have the same number repeating. But in this question, they tell you in the question statement as well, they're telling you that the difference is not equal to 0. The difference in the arithmetic progression is not equal to 0. If the difference is not equal to 0, that means we can't have the same terms repeated. And that means the ratio in the GP can also not be 1. Okay. So because of that, r equals 1 is not possible. But if we can't figure that out, what you can do is you can just input these two things here back in the other equation. You would say, let's input r equals 3/4 here and input r equals 1 here. What do you get from that? The value of d is 2 into 3/4 minus 2. That is 6/4 minus 2, which is minus 1/2. And from the second one, you get d equals 2 into 1 minus 2. And from this, you get d equal to 0. And this is clearly not possible according to the question statement. The question statement tells you that d can't be 0. So since d can't be 0, we are going to ignore this answer. So if d can't be 0, that means ratio is also not equal to 1. So the only possible answers that you're getting are r equals 3/4 and d equals minus 1/2 or minus 0.5. All right. These are the values of R and D that we get. So you get questions like these often, that you have some terms of one sequence equal to some other terms of the other sequence. What you're going to do is you're just going to write those terms like this and equate the corresponding terms that they're telling you about. And that will give you some equations, solve them simultaneously, you would get the result. Is that okay? Any problem with this? Now, the second and third parts of this look pretty straightforward. Sum to infinity for the GP, that's just A over 1 minus R. You've got the value of A, you've got the value of R. You can just apply that formula. Then you have sum of the first 8 terms, just apply the sum formula for the AP. Half into N into 2A plus N minus 1 times the difference. Again, you know the value of A, you know the value of difference now. Just input those values to get the sum as well. So the second and third parts are pretty straightforward. You just have to apply formulas, input values, and you get the result. All right. Any problem with this? Any questions, anyone?
No, sir.
Okay, good. Now let's move on to another question. So Abdullah is asking about this question from some other paper. Let's see if I can send that here somehow.
Sir, it's from February, March 2024.
Okay, I'll just send it to myself here. Okay, so let me just copy this now. Okay, so it says an AP is such that the first term is 6, and the 10th term is 19.5. Find the sum of the first 100 terms of this AP. Okay, so now that's pretty straightforward. The first part, at least. What does it say? T1, that means A is 6. We're talking about an AP, so we should write here that we're talking about an AP. The first term is 6, and the 10th term, that means T10, that is equal to 19.5. Now, we can use the term formula to find the difference. What's the term formula for an AP? It's A plus N minus 1 into D. A is 6 plus N minus 1, that means 10 minus 1, that means 9 into D, that equals 19.5. And that's going to give us the value for the difference. Let's see what those terms are to be. 19.5 minus 6 divided by 9. So that's 1.5 or 3 over 2. This is the difference. Now you need to find the sum of the first 100 terms of the AP. Let's just use the sum formula. That's half into N into 2A plus N minus 1 times the difference. What do we get from that? 1 over 2 into 100 into 2 times A, which is 6, plus N minus 1, which is 100 minus 1, that means 99 into the difference, that's 1.5. And that's it. Just evaluate this and that you'll get the sum of the first 100 terms. 50 multiplied by 12 plus 99 into 1.5, and that's giving me 8025. Is that okay? 8025, that's the result that we get for this. That's the sum of the first 100 terms. That's the first part. That's all that you have to do in the first part. Okay, pretty straightforward, easy 4 marks. Now it says a GP A1, A2, A3 is such that A1 equals 24 and the common ratio is 1 over 2. So now we're talking. Now we're talking about a GP. And we are given that the first term is 24 and the ratio is 1/2. Okay, so now we have a GP. The terms are like this: T1, T2, T3. These are the terms that we are given. T1 is A1, then you have A2, then you have A3. We know the value of the first term, that's 24, and they've given that the ratio is 1/2. Can we write down the next two terms using this? If the ratio is 1/2, 24 into 1/2, that will be 12. 12 into 1/2, that will be 6. So these are the first three terms that we're given. Then it says the sum to infinity of this GP is denoted by S. Okay, sum to infinity of this GP, that's denoted by S. So we can say S is the sum to infinity of this GP. Let's find that out as well and see what that turns out to be. A over 1 minus R. S equals A, which is 24. Remember, the first term here is 24. Over 1 minus R, that means 1 minus 1/2, that's 1 minus 0.5. So the value of S that we've got is 48. All right, that's what S is. So now we know the value of S, that's 48, and we also know the values of A1, A2, A3. Now it says the sum to infinity of the even numbered terms is denoted by SE. Find the values of S and SE. Now we have found the value of 48 already. Okay, we found the value of S already. What about SE? That's the sum of the even number terms. Let's see how that progression would look like. So let me write that down here. We have A1. So now they're talking about even number terms. A1, let's write those terms down to understand the situation better. A1, A2, A3, so A4, A5, A6, and so on. Let's write down some of these terms, and that will help you understand the situation better. The first term is 24. Then you have 12, then you have 6, then the next one would be 3, and then 1.5, and then 0.75. Now, they want the sum of all the even numbered terms. So basically, they want the sum of 12, 3, 0.75, and so on. What you can do is you can treat this as another sequence, treat this as a different sequence. Let's call this a different sequence, a new sequence, which has these terms: 12, 3, 0.75, and so on. Okay, that's a new sequence that we've got.
Sir, how is 3 an even number?
3 is not an even number. They're saying even numbered terms. Even numbered terms means the terms appearing at an even position. That's what they're saying. So they have explained that here as well. They mean A1, they mean A2, A4, A6. The terms appearing at even positions, right? So basically, the second term, the fourth term, the sixth term, that's what they're talking about. Is that okay?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so now we find the sum to infinity of this progression. What does that turn out to be? A is 12. We can write down the value of A and R. A is 12. What about the ratio of this sequence? You can see the ratio is constant. 3 over 12, that's 1/4. 0.75 over 3, you can check that. That's also 1/4. So this is also a GP. Ratio is 3 over 12, which is 1/4. Find the sum to infinity of this. First term is 12. 1 minus 1/4. And you can see what that turns out to be. 12 divided by 3/4. And that's going to be 16. The sum of the even number terms is 16. They called this SE. So we can say SE therefore equals 16. Okay, so the value of S is 48. The value of SE is 48. If we had to do the same thing for the odd numbered terms, you can see 48 minus 16. That would be 32. So you could use the odd number terms as well. That will be 24 over 3/4. and that will give you 32 as well. So even number terms sum is 16, odd number terms is the sum of the odd number terms would be 32 if you had to find that. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, anything else? Any other questions? Any other questions on AP or GP? No other questions? Let's quickly do one question from the worksheet that involves some kind of a word problem in which they have one real world scenario given. Have you done this? Question number 18. Question number 18. How many of you are done with that?
Yes, sir.
Yes? It was straightforward?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, be careful with questions like these when they have something like this. Total amount the college will receive in the years 2012 to 2022. How many years is this? How many terms is this going to be? From 2012 to 2022. How many terms is that? That's 11 terms, right? Do not take it as 10 terms. Don't just do 2022 minus 2012. You see, you've got 2 here. And then you have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 20 and 21. So up to 2021, you have 10 terms. And then 2022, that's the 11th term. You can just count them on your fingers. If you're unsure, you can't just do subtraction here like that. Okay, I think this is a good question. You can probably just do this one and then we end for today. The first part is also, I think, slightly interesting. Let's do this. Question number 22 from the worksheet. Okay, so it says an AP contains 25 terms and the first term is minus 15. So we're talking about an arithmetic progression. And the first term of this arithmetic progression is minus 15. It has 25 total terms. The sum of all the terms in the progression is 525. So that means S25, that is equal to 525. That's what they've given. We need to find the common difference of this progression. So we need to find the value of D. Okay. How do you do that? You've got the sum given, so we can use the sum formula. Half into n, the value of n is 25, into 2 times a, that means 2 into minus 15, plus n minus 1, that's 25 minus 1, 24, into the difference, which we have to find out. This equals 525. You get this equation, you can solve this to find the value of D. Multiply 2 on the other side, leave 25 here. You have minus 30 plus 24D, 525 into 2, that's going to be 1050. Divide 25 on the other side, minus 30 plus 24D equals 42. And then 24D equals 72. The value of D turns out to be 3. That's what you have to do in the first part. Difference is equal to 3. Then it says find the last term in the progression. There are 25 terms in total. How do you find the last term? You have to find the 25th term, basically. Okay. Last term in this case means the 25th term, because you've got 25 terms in total. What's the term formula for an AP? It's A plus N minus 1 into D, right? What's the first term? The first term is minus 15 plus 25 minus 1, that's 24, into the difference, that's 3. And that's going to give you the 25th term, 72 minus 15. That is 57. So this should be the last term, 57. Now it says, find the sum of all the positive terms in the progression. What does that mean? All the positive terms. How do we think about this now? Any idea? How do we think about this? We're starting from minus 15. Some terms are going to be negative, and then some are positive. We only need to find the sum of all the positive terms.
We start a new progression from term 5, from when it starts being positive.
We start our progression from when it becomes positive. Okay. So how do we figure out when it becomes positive? We know that the first term is minus 15. And then since the difference is 3, that means you're adding 3 to get the next term every single time. Minus 15, then the next term would be minus 12, the next would be minus 9, and then minus 6, and then minus 3, and then 0, and then 3, and then all the way up to 57. Okay, so we do not need the sum of the negative terms. We only need to find the sum of the positive terms. The first term is this, then you have T2, then you have T3, then you have T4, then T5, and then T6, and so on, all the way up to T25. We only need to find the sum of these terms. Now, we don't need to include 0 as well. It doesn't make any difference if we include that or not, because 0 will not make any difference to the sum. So we could say we could start from T7 and go up to 57. That's what we've got to do. Now, one way to do this could be that you find sum of all the 25 terms, subtract from that the sum of the first 6 terms. And that will give you the result. That's one possibility. Okay. Or you could make a new sequence and say that this is your first term, and then this is the sequence. You can see what the number of terms is. Now you have to be careful finding the number of terms here. That's where most students will end up making an error. 7 to 25. How many terms is that? 25 minus 7 is 18. It's not 18 terms. It's one more than that. It's actually going to be 19. So basically, generally what we do in cases like this is we find the difference, add 1 to that, because there's one extra term. If you're including both 7 and 25, the number of terms is going to be 19. Okay. You can count them. If you're unsure, it's 19 terms. So if you were to treat it as a separate sequence, you would say the value of A is 3, and you need to find sum of 19 terms, given that the difference is 3. Okay, that's what you can do. But I think this is going to be a safer option, because if you do this, very likely that you would end up taking the wrong value of N. Instead of 19, most people would end up taking 18. Okay, so this is better, I think. Find the sum of all 25 terms. That means sum of all of these terms. Subtract from that the sum of the first 6 terms, and that will give you the sum that you want. That's the sum. Okay. Now you can just input values in the formula. It's an AP. That's half into N. That means half into 25 into 2 times A, 2 into minus 15, plus N minus 1, which is 24, into the difference, which is 3. Subtract from this 1 over 2 into 6 into 2 times minus 15 plus N minus 1. That means 6 minus 1. That's 5 into difference. That's 3. Evaluate this and you get the result. Okay. What do we get from this? I'm getting
570.
525. Well, by the way, you could actually save your work because the question tells you sum of all the terms is 525. You already know that. So you could actually save this working because you already know the sum of the first 25 terms, sum of all the terms, that's 525. So you just have to subtract this number from 525. Just subtract the sum of the first 6 terms from the sum of the first from all the terms, right? So 525 is already given. The question tells you about this. What about this? This is 3 into minus 30 plus 15 minus 45 minus 45. So 525 plus 45, that gives you 570. That is the sum of all the sum of all the positive terms. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
The total sum was lower because it was also including negative values. The negative values were actually reducing the total sum. So that's why the sum is now increased, because we're now adding only positive values. Okay, just give me a second. I need to leave a message here. Okay, now let's look at the next part. Part B1. Now it says the college agrees a sponsorship deal in which grants will be received each year for sports equipment. The grant will be $4,000 in 2012 and will increase by 5% each year. It will increase by 5% each year. Yeah, calculate the value of the grant in 2022. Okay, let's think about this. So the sponsorship deal is like this, that it will start from 4,000 in 2012. Let's actually write it down here. In 2012, the grant is 4,000. And then it increases by 5% each year. So it's going to increase by 5% here, and then so on all the way up to 2022. We need to find the value of the grant in 2022. We need to find this number. Now, what type of sequence is this? It's increasing by 5%. Remember, we discussed this earlier. Whenever we're talking about percentage increase, that's percentage increase or a percentage decrease, it's a GP, it's a geometric progression. And what we're saying is, if the first value was 100%, it increases to 105%, right? If 100% is going to 105%, what's the ratio? Just write this number, 105%, as a decimal, and that's 1.05. The ratio is supposed to be 1.05. That's one way of thinking about this. Another way to think about this could be you just find 5%, just increase 40,000 by 5% and see what the next value turns out to be in this case. 4,000 into one, increase that by 5%, that gives you 4,200. So the next value is 4,200. Another way to find the ratio could be just divide these two values, 4,200 divided by 4,000, and the ratio turns out to be 1.05. So you can think of it either way. You can do it in your head like this. It's 5% increase. That means it's going to 105%. 105% in decimals is 1.05. So that's the ratio. You know the first term as well. The first term is 4,000. We need to find the value of the grant in 2022. Now, This is a GP. What's the term formula for a GP? AR raised to power n minus 1. And now you've got to be very careful. Which term are we looking for? Which term are we looking for? It's the 11th term. It's not the 10th term. That's a very common error in problems like these. It's the 11th term. You can count. If you find the difference will give you 10. You have to add one more to that. Okay, that's 11 terms. From 2020, if 2012 was the first term, 2022 would be the 11th term, right? So think about it like this. This is T1. Add 10 to that, it becomes T11. Okay, you're not starting from 0, you're starting from 1. So you say this is 4,000 into R, which is 1.05 raised to power n minus 1. That means 11 minus 1. And that will give you the result. You can see what this turns out to be. Yes, Abdullah, that's how we calculate the second term. To increase it by 5%, we're basically multiplying by 1.05. That's where this idea comes from, that you can find the ratio directly like this. The ratio is 1.05. Okay, so what's this number? 4,000 into 1.05 raised to power 11 minus 1.
6,515.58.
58. Okay, thank you. This is what we get. This is the 11th term. In 2022, this will be the value of this grant. Okay, now you could write it with units. That's preferable, although it doesn't make you lose marks in paper 1 or paper 3. In paper 1, paper 3, it's not necessary to write down the units, but if you want, you can do that. This is the result that you get. Okay, this is what we were looking for. Now let's look at the next part of this. It says the total amount find the total amount the college will receive in the years 2012 to 2022 inclusive. Inclusive means 2012 is also included and 2022 is also included. Both of them are going to be included. We want to find the total amount the college will receive. That means we're looking for the sum of all of these terms. Right? We're looking for the sum of all of these terms. So how many terms do we have? We have 11 terms in total. What's the sum formula? Half into n. I'm sorry. So again, we need to make sure that you remember exactly which sequence are we talking about. It's a GP. What's the sum formula for a GP? It's a into 1 minus r raised to power n divided by 1 minus r. What's the first term? The first term was 4,000 into 1 minus 1.05. Remember, whenever ratio is negative, make sure to write that in brackets. Otherwise, it's all right, but it's better to make it a habit to always write it in brackets. 1.05 raised to power 11 divided by 1 minus 1.05. And see what that gives you. 1 minus 1.05 raised to power 11 in the numerator into 4,000. So in the numerator, I'm getting minus 2841.357 divided by minus 0.05. You can see what this number turns out to be.
56,827.15.
Okay, thank you. This is what we get. This is the total of the grant value in all of those 11 years. Again, that's what we were looking for. Okay, I hope that makes sense. I think we've done enough practice, although you will find some other difficult questions in the worksheet as well. I hope you've already attempted them and understand how to do them. But that completes the topic. And with that, we are done with our syllabus along with topical practice as well. And that's it. So that will be it then for this crash course. I hope you found all of these classes helpful, and now you keep continuing with practice, keep revising so that you don't forget stuff. You've got all the notes available, you've got all the recordings available. On my channel, you'll also find some revision videos, quick revision videos for these topics. So they're very helpful close to the exam when you want to revise everything that you need to know about. You can explore that if you want, but make sure to keep revising so that you don't forget any stuff. Okay. And that's it. You have access to the WhatsApp group still. You can keep asking questions if you have any. Try to help each other out in the WhatsApp group as well. If nobody responds to you soon enough, I'll also try to help you out until the exam, inshallah. But whenever you post a question in WhatsApp, I would expect you to send your working up to that point, up whatever you've worked on until that point, and then I'll have a look at that and maybe identify where you're making an error or give you a hint about it, how to go in the right direction. Okay, that's one thing. And I'm conducting a yearly past paper session. Towards the end of that session, just before your exam on 2nd of May, I think, I will be doing some question and answer session with those students. So I'll send a link for that particular class to you guys as well. So all of you who are not registered for that session as well, just before the session, just before the exam. I think the last day, 1st of May or maybe 30th of April as well. So in that 1 or 2 classes, maybe just one class the day before the exam, 1st May, it should be a long session, 2-3 hours, in which you guys can just come and ask any last minute questions that you have. Remind me about that as well, to send the link for that class in the group as well. And you can join that as well. Let me know if there are any questions that you have at the very end. Okay, I hope you found this helpful. I've really enjoyed teaching this as well, especially thankful to those of you who've been working hard, doing the questions and letting me know what problems you're having, and also those of you who have been participating actively in class, responding to my questions, asking questions, and doing calculations for me. Thank you so much for that. That's it for today. And that's it for the course as well. Anything that you might want to ask just before we end?
No, thank you, sir.
Sir, is the difficulty level of the worksheet as same as the yearly past papers?
If you look at some recent papers, they are quite complicated. So look at 2023 in particular, the last year, they have started increasing the difficulty level a little. Not just the difficulty level, they have started kind of changing the pattern of some questions as well. So make sure that you're done with the last 3-4 years of papers. That's really, really important. So depending on how much time you have now, it's already, what's the day today? It's 19th April today. Start from the most recent ones. So make sure that you at least do the 2023 papers, and then hopefully 2022 as well, and then go as far back as you can. I hope you've attempted some yearly papers already, but at least do the last 2 years, if not more. Start from 2023 and go backwards as far as you can go, and also do March 2024 now. That's also out. Do that as well, but that's really important that you attempt the recent papers. And you will find what they have in the recent papers is that if you are used to just remembering that if you get a question like this, you'll just follow these 3-4 steps and get to the result. They've just tried to change that pattern a little, and they want you to be able to think now, right, more than they used to before. So make sure that your concepts are very strong. So that's why we've been trying to focus on the reasoning for everything that we're doing, as in why we're doing what we're doing, because that is what really makes your concept stronger. So once you understand the concept, you should be able to figure them out, but you still need practice for that. It's important that you do at least the 2023 papers. There are 7 papers, March, and then 3 June papers, and then 3 November papers, and then March 24, that's 8 papers in total, and then go as far back as you can, 2022, 2021, depending on how much time you have. Okay.
Okay, sir.
All right, good. So that's it. I'll see you again maybe just before the exam, the last couple of days, in that Q&A session. If you have any last minute questions, make sure that you do a lot of practice until then. And you can keep posting your questions in the WhatsApp group as well. Thank you, everyone. Allah Hafiz. I'll see you again at another time, inshallah.
Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.